And by the way, you don't think Bill would love to shove it right where Robert Kraft sits in that luxury box? I'm in your division now, MFR. Wow. Welcome into another edition of Chasin on the 33rd team. Trey Wingo here with Chase Daniel. Chase, we always say divisional weekend is the best weekend of the entire season. Yeah. It lived up to it. We'll get to all of it. But my God, another epic game in the postseason between Buffalo and Kansas City. And I almost hate to say this for Bills fans. Wide right comes back. All those years later, Super Bowl 25, Scott Norwood, wide right. They don't win that game over the Giants, and then with a chance to maybe tie the game and send it to overtime, Bass goes wide right, and Kansas City goes to their sixth straight AFC Championship game.
Wow is correct, and you said it. Like, Mahomes been the quarterback there since 2018. He has never not played in an AFC Championship game. Like, you got to start talking about this team as a dynasty. Like everyone, like, the fact of the matter is they sucked during the regular season in terms of what a Patrick Mahomes-led offense should be. They weren't very good. They averaged a touchdown less per game through the regular season. Then all of a sudden against Miami, they're rolling. We talked about it a lot. Just actually watching and breaking down the film, it's like the first time that all 11 guys on the field had clicked, and that was last week against Miami. This week against Buffalo, now they were depleted at the linebacker position. A.J. Klein even went out, came back into the game, safety position as well, all the injuries. But for them to put up 27 points, and really should have been 34 because of the
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
By
we'll
Miko. Like, I can't.
We'll get to it.
Oh God, I just want to get to it now, Trey, because I can't hold it in. There's such a bad idea. But anyway, yeah, they are. You got to start talking dynasty, and anyone with the team that has Patrick Mahomes should never, ever, ever be counted out. Didn't we learn our lesson multiple times where they thought that, they've lost 3 straight, or they've done this, or they suck in the regular season? Dude, Mahomes is the best quarterback on the planet. Never count a Mahomes-led team out ever, and he showed up tonight in a big way.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here, but let's first start with Kansas City, because this was almost the antithesis of everything we saw this season. I mean, they were gashed on the ground in this game. I think Buffalo ran for over 180 yards. They had 124 at the half, and the entire season it has been, oh my God, the Chiefs defense keeps bailing out the offense. The Chiefs defense keeps bailing out the offense. Well, when they had to have it, what happened? The offense showed up. And once again, it was Patrick Mahomes led by Travis Kelce. By the way, 2 more touchdown catches today in the postseason. Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes are now the most prolific touchdown pass and catch combination in the history of the NFL.
You're witnessing history.
They have 16. That's 1 more than Brady and Gronk through 2 different teams. That's 4 more than Montana to Rice, by the way. So this is the level that we're seeing from this team. It was Patrick Mahomes' first road playoff game. Who frickin' cares? He did what he did. He does what he does. He actually, as you pointed out on NFL Network, and I tweeted today, he's now 39, or the team, let me be clear. Wins and losses are not a quarterback's.
Look at what you just did. Hold on. Look at what you just did. Myself. You just said Mahomes is 39-11 on the road.
I caught myself.
I
caught myself. Shut up. I hate you. The team is now 39-11 with Patrick Mahomes under center, and they're only 36-11 with him under center at home. So the team is actually better on the road in the Patrick Mahomes era, which is insane. But there are a couple of things that I think we really need to break down in this game before we start previewing the championship games. Number one, Pacheco did not play in that game at Arrowhead. My God, this guy is a difference maker. Like, you can argue, Chase, that the tackles for Kansas City are not good in Smith and Juwan. But that interior 3, Creed Humphrey, Tooney, and Trey Smith, that might be the best interior 3 in football, and they just decided to run it right at Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, Pacheco leading the way. I mean, first of all, they had 24 carries, 146 yards. They averaged 6 yards a carry. Everyone talks about how Buffalo ran for 182 yards, and they did. They got away from it at the end of the game, which is we'll talk about in the later. But the fact of the matter is they committed to the run. Mahomes, 23 passing attempts. The team rushed for 24 attempts. That's about the most balanced attack you could possibly get. Andy Reid understands that a rushing game and a defense travel on the road. Now, Mahomes was brilliant, 17 of 23, 215 yards, averaged 9 yards a completion, 2 touchdowns, 131.6 rating. But when you take that pressure off of them with a Pacheco, I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire averaged 15 and a half yards per carry. So big play threat, 31 yards rushing. And then obviously Pat Mahomes had that 24-yard run down the left sideline, stepped out a little bit early. But, I mean, amazing just game plan. And this is what the Chiefs should have been all year long. Now, I know Pacheco has been banged up. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, they've lost Jarrett McKinnon, all these guys. The only questionable thing, Trey, is that in the run game, they gave the ball twice to Mecole Hardman. Okay?
Yeah.
Both of them were fumbles. I don't get that part of it. Just do what you do. Ride the big three. Rashee Rice caught all 4 of his targets for almost 50 yards. MVS, I've been telling you, and we've been saying it on this, they have to have a third receiver step up. Like last week against Miami, Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce get the bulk of the targets. They get over 75% of the target share in that game. Now it's more mixed up. Travis Kelce, 6 targets. MVS, 4 targets. Rashee Rice, 4 targets. Even Noah Gray, 3 targets. And all these targets, they caught most of them. So you got to have somebody other than Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice, which looked a little banged up there. I think that's why he only got 4 targets. But those have been the big 3, right? Travis Kelce, Rashee Rice, Isiah Pacheco. If they can get a 4th, MVS, for 6 yards, like he had a long of 32. These big plays, huge like scramble play for that. I mean, it was a masterpiece on offense. The fact of how balanced they were, it really helped Mahomes out in the pass game.
Well, look, let's just go to the big picture here. Death, taxes, and Patrick Mahomes in the postseason, right? Those are the only certainties in life. He's showing up in the AFC Championship game. I'm worried about the Rashee Rice thing because he looked like he got banged up and he wasn't right. And now, listen, they can't afford to lose him going up or have him be hampered or less than 100% anyway against a really good Ravens defense, which we'll get to in a minute. But I think what we're witnessing in real time is this has never happened before in the history of the NFL. Okay, forget the Kelce to Mahomes thing for a second. Tom Brady has never gone to 6 straight conference. Tom Brady never went to 5 in a row. I don't think he ever went to 4 in a row. Like the kind of things we're seeing out of Kansas City are so far beyond the realm of the normal that we sort of accept it and we don't understand how brilliant it is. And I'm not. Look, they've only won 2 Super Bowls. I get that. I understand they've been to 3. I understand all of that. But to have the opportunity to go to those games, you have to get to the title game. There has never been a team in the history of football in the Super Bowl era. You can go back to the Cleveland Browns or the All-American Football Conference in the 50s. I understand that. But in the Super Bowl era and in the era of free agency, this has never happened before. The consistency we're seeing from the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes partnership is off the charts. It's off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, the question is, and we talked about, are they a dynasty? Like, are they already a dynasty?
They are.
The fact that
to me they are.
You have to say they are. If you look at, I mean, especially, look, it would cement them for sure if they went to another Super Bowl and won another Super Bowl. And I think just pure facts on what you just said right now, Trey, I think they are. Like, I really do think they are. And honestly, this to me was the most impressive year of a Mahomes-led team. Look, they were 11-6 in the regular season. I would venture to say, and I went back and checked the roster and the talent level, this is probably on offense the least talented roster that Mahomes has had.
Without question.
Without a true number 1 receiver going into the year. Now, Rashee Rice, yes, he went into the year unknown. He has stepped up as the true number 1 outside of Travis Kelce. And I would I would definitely say that this is the best defense that Patrick Mahomes has had in his career there by far. And he just finds ways to do it, like leaning on their defense early in the year while they're having growing pains. I mean, Trey, it literally took them 17 games to figure out who they are on offense. Yeah. But now that they're in the tournament, right? That's what we say. And coaches say to us when we're in the room of offensive meeting rooms or head coaches talking to the team in team meeting rooms, like, just get into the tournament. It don't matter what you did in the regular season. Once you're in the tournament and then you win a few games and you get a little bit of momentum, that's when you can be really dangerous. And this Chiefs team right now, I mean, they're showing signs of like, okay, this is what we expected the offense to be, especially with some lower named guys really stepping up.
Look, this is, you always want to be playing your best football this time of year. This is the best football that the Chiefs have played the entire season. In their first playoff win, they held the Miami Dolphins to a season low in 7 points. Then they go to Buffalo, and Buffalo's playing as well as anybody right now.
Yeah.
They hold them to 24. The Chiefs defense has still not given up 30 points this season. I mean, that's an insane thing. It took an incredible throw from Josh Allen on that 3rd and 15 for L'Jarius Sneed to give up his first touchdown of the season. So whatever we've seen from Kansas City before, they're playing better now than they played all season. So that's the Kansas City side of it. Yep. We now have to address Buffalo, because I think this loss may have massive repercussions for this franchise. We put it on the podcast, or I said it. I don't want to put it on you. I said this franchise peaked with 13 seconds to play in the divisional round 2 years ago when they lost that game and they went ahead and won it, and the Chiefs went on to win it in overtime. Yep. This is just another indication of them not getting where they needed to be. For as good as Josh Allen is, and he is, if he's not 2, I mean, any quarterback list with me starts with Patrick Mahomes. I have all the receipts. You can not like it if you want, but you're not looking at facts, okay? That's an opinion. Yeah. I'm going on facts, okay? He's always 1. Now, you could say Josh Allen is 2, Lamar is 2, whoever you want. But if Josh Allen isn't 2, he's 2A, okay? So you have arguably the second best quarterback. You have playmakers. You have a defense that really came together for most of the season, and you still, throughout this incredible run, have one AFC Championship game appearance to show for it.
Yeah.
Not a win, an appearance that they ended up losing by 10 a couple of years ago in Kansas City. So with this thing falling short again, are we looking at a major rebuild in Buffalo in terms of coaching?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. And I think that would be a really harsh and emotionally filled move if it were, and I'm guessing you're talking about moving on from McDermott. My biggest thing, Trey, is if you look at Buffalo coming into the year, I liken their season to 3 separate seasons. If you look at them coming into the year, there were really high expectations. Like you would say, everyone in the preseason would say Chiefs, Ravens, Bills would be the last 3 remaining, and in some type of order they would be playing against each other, or they should be playing against each other in the AFC Championship game. Well, you're getting, Chiefs, Ravens, so Bills were the last part of the 3, but then when you start 6-6, and you're like, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Like literally everyone's fired. We fired Ken Dorsey. We replaced him with Joe Brady. We're firing everyone.
Which by the way, I got to say, saved their season. Like Joe Brady saved their season. We talked about it, and you were right on the money. I mean, that decision, and it felt like a scapegoat thing at the time. It saved their season. It literally did.
They went off and won 6 straight after that, including the wild card last week against Pittsburgh. And then you look at it now as like, okay, listen, all we did was we tweaked the offensive coordinator position. Really, we fired the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, which if he doesn't get a head job, which I don't think he will, he will be back full-time offensive coordinator for what he did, or he will get a job somewhere if he doesn't based on how he did. And then you're only a few pieces away. And I think the biggest thing on defense, which was super impressive to me, they were ran through defensively with injuries. Like it was insane, the amount of injuries, preseason, postseason, everything in between, regular season. And so for them to play like they did down the stretch, that's a really good building point for them next year. But the biggest thing is they haven't won in the playoffs. That's the biggest thing that they've struggled with, and that, quite honestly, has always been Buffalo's issue. And so I don't know if it's a Sean McDermott thing. And I think you're about as close as you can possibly get to being close. And they've been this way for 3 or 4 years. Some would say, and I was never on this train, but there was a lot of talk within the media oh my gosh, Buffalo's window has closed when they were 6-6. It is so far gone, fire. And I would say, no, it's still open. You got to figure out what to do, with Stephon Diggs, in my opinion. And this isn't talked about enough, but there's something going on in that organization.
It hasn't been right with them all season.
Since week 6, dude, he's averaged half the amount of targets, half the amount of yards, and only has had 2 touchdowns. He's one of the best receivers in the game. You're not throwing the ball. Okay, that's got to get figured out. I get that. But I do think they're close. The biggest thing is close isn't good enough, right? That's what you're going to say. That's what everyone else is going to say. You have to find a way to get over the hump. What is that? Dude, I have no idea.
Well, here's the only reason. Listen, I don't ever want. Well, I think Mike McCarthy should have been fired from Dallas because, hey, great, 12 wins is not what you're doing. It's been 28 years. It'll be 29 now since you appeared in a conference title game where you got out of the division. So if that's the standard for you, 12 wins in the regular season, Jerry, go for it. But you say it's Super Bowl or bust, so you should have changed coaches because it's not working. Here's the problem. Sean McDermott was bailed out for a horrible decision in this game by Mecole Hardman, the play you want to talk about. Okay, there hadn't been a turnover in this game.
Oh my God!
It's inside their own 40. It's not 4th and 2. It's 4th and 5. It's 4th and 5, and they go for it. And obviously, the Chiefs saw something in that lineup because you saw them when they came out for that formation. They were prepared. They were ready for that fake. So they saw something in film that they knew from that formation something's not right. He didn't come close. Hamlin didn't come close to getting that pickup. Right? To me, that's a fireable offense because the only reason this wasn't a 10-point game at the end is the Mecole Hardman trying to stretch the play because Pacheco gashes them to put him right down there, you know. And if they go in there, suddenly it's 10 points, and now the Bills are panicking and they're trying to rush, and then that opportunistic Chiefs defense comes into it. So when we get to the idea of whether or not they should move on from Sean McDermott, it's hard to get around that decision. For me, it's hard to say what made you think that was the right decision to give this guy potentially a short field, especially when there was nothing that surprised Kansas City in that look on that Buffalo punt.
Yeah, and the fact is, I think KC only had 10 people on the field, 10 guys on the field during that, which makes it even worse. But great points, Trey, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I think when you look at head coaching changes, I've always looked at it, even from a player's perspective, now in a media perspective, I got to look at 2 things. One of them was what Greg Olsen said, and I think that's really true. If Sean McDermott's fired tomorrow, how many teams will line up at the doorstep to hire him? I think a lot. I think a lot will. And also, if you fire Sean McDermott, you better damn be sure to hire someone that's better than him on the market. There's only
Belichick.
There's only one. It's Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick ain't going to Buffalo, bro. There is
Why wouldn't he?
No way. There's no way in division. No.
Why wouldn't he?
No, he's not doing it.
Why wouldn't he?
He's got a love affair with the Falcons. He's got a love affair with the Falcons.
Then Bill is not as smart as we think.
Could you imagine
I'll tell you that right. Hold on. Time out. Let's have this discussion. He should, if there's a job opening, he should absolutely run to Buffalo. He should be begging them because Desmond Ridder, Josh Allen. I mean, that's it. Yeah. Desmond Ridder or Josh Allen. Like,
well, the Falcons.
And by the way, you don't think Bill would love to shove it right where Robert Kraft sits in that luxury box? I'm in your division now, MFR.
I can't
he
imagine.
Would love that.
The Pergolas hiring him though. Like, could you imagine the fan base with all the stuff that he put them through? Like, I don't know.
And now he gets to do it to other people. Like, I've never understood that. Bill Belichick.
Trey, you know damn well it's not happening. Okay. You know it's not happening.
It's the greatest scenario ever, though. Let's just be honest. If Sean McDermott, for whatever reason, is no longer, look, it's the quarterback. Like we have to have the quarterback. You have to have that guy. So anyway, that's the other thing. Now, do we think that touchback rule is going to get changed in the offseason?
I think it's a rule, dude. I don't think.
I think it's going to get changed.
So first of all,
I think it's going to get changed.
People are split on it. People either hate it or they're like, "That's the rule." I am 100% pure football, and it is 100% the rule. Runners don't freaking reach the football over. It's a rule. When you break the rules, there's consequences. Every coach from high school, every coach in high school moving on has been a person that has said, and a coach that has said, please do not reach the football unless it's 4th down. Bad reach, good reach. I remember Andy Reid. It was the most coached in my career by Andy Reid. And the offensive coordinators that I've had over the years, with the KC Chiefs, Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, all of them. It was like Eric Bieniemy legitimately saying, unless it's fourth down, you never reach for a ball. At least 10 to 15 times a year. Like ever.
I get it.
Bad reach. You got to put it on the player.
I get it. I get it. And I have no problem with the rule being called as it is. I just think they're going to change it. I think they're going to change it. Because basically, what is every, leap over the pile, put the ball over the thing. You can knock it out that way, I mean,
Yeah.
I just think it's going to get changed. I just think it's going to get changed.
I just think if you fumble the ball, that's on you. And you should deserve the freaking consequences of it going out of the end zone.
Yeah, listen, that's fair. I just think the competition committee is going to change it.
That and the tush push are the two hottest things on the docket.
They should never change the brotherly shove. There's nothing illegal about that. That's the dumbest thing in the world. Just because one,
especially
team
with Kelsey maybe retiring, it's not going to be.
Yeah.
He was the catalyst for it. It's not going to be unstoppable anymore.
But by the way, just since you brought that up, little love for Jason Kelsey today, right?
Oh
After the first Travis Kelsey touchdown, they go to see Taylor Swift, and just frickin' he's shirtless, but he's got a sweater on. You know what I mean?
Bush
With
Light.
Let's go, just chugging it, living his best brother life. So that was one of the best parts of the whole damn thing. All right, so the Chiefs story is ridiculous. We'll see what happens in Buffalo because I feel so bad for Buffalo fans because all they know is heartbreak. Like, it's all they know. 4 straight Super Bowls, all losses, each one almost worse than the other, and then so close so many times. Like, I don't know how you be a Buffalo fan.
Well, I will
you're just
say,
setting
Trey,
yourself
though,
to get stabbed in the heart.
Yeah, you are. That's a good line. But I do think too, the 2 of the last 3 years, like their losses in the divisional round have been to the best quarterback of all time. So I think that's
last year was
they
Joe.
can't get by Mahomes.
Last year was Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I'm saying like divisional round Mahomes. 2 of the last 3 years have been the best player in the freaking world. So
Gotcha. You just don't have the best player in the world, and that's sometimes a hard thing to admit. We just don't have that guy. So the Chiefs story is remarkable on one set of circumstances. The Lions story is also unbelievably remarkable.
This is the coolest story in the NFL.
It's the first time in the history of the franchise they've had multiple home playoff games, and they're playing. There's only 4 teams that have never made a Super Bowl appearance: Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston Texans, and the Detroit Lions. And now the Detroit Lions are 1 win away.
4.
Only 4.
Dude, that's a good stat. I like those stats.
You're welcome.
Yeah, nice job.
They're 1 win away. And you listen, 2 years ago, they were a joke. And they, they had a 3-win season and they couldn't stop anybody on defense. And Dan Campbell was, going for it all the time. And by the way, Dan Campbell punted and kicked a field goal in this game. So that's growth, in certain situations. But it is an amazing story for a fan base that has been just devoid of anything for so long. And now taking care of Tampa Bay, listen, I don't know what's going to happen in San Francisco, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But this Lions team, there's something about him, man. Laporta was not supposed to be able to play with that bone bruise. Not only did he play, he's played great 2 weeks in a row. Their defense came up with huge stops. Amon-Ra St. Brown was absolutely a monster again when he had to have it. It's hard not to, and again, we're not rooting for anybody, right? We just want to see it all play out. It's hard not to root for the Detroit Lions considering all the crap that they've had to go through and to see where they are now. It's a remarkable story.
Well, it's such a cool story, and honestly, like you said, all those names, offensive players, right? They've been really, really good on offense. Defense was really good to start the year, struggled down the stretches, played okay the last 2 games, depleted secondary. Johnson being back in that secondary is huge for the CJ Gardner-Johnson is huge, but it all starts with one person. You said his name, Dan Campbell, bro. That is the only reason this franchise got out of misery. They're out of misery, and look, I played with him in 2009. He was a tight ends coach in 2017 when I went back to the Saints. And so being in the locker room with him as a player and as a coach, you could just see like he was destined for really great things. And not necessarily every single head coach has to have this offensive prowess or this defensive prowess. You just got to have that grit. And that is the very best way I can describe Dan Campbell. And I'll give you 3 reasons why Dan Campbell has completely turned around the Detroit Lions franchise and completely changed the culture there. Number one, okay, he's empowering his players. He's empowering his players. That's the biggest thing you can do from a CEO type level coach. If you empower your players and give them an opportunity to be great and trust them and keep them accountable to what you're asking, and at the end of the day, you're going to put the trust and the onus on the players, right? That's what it's about. When you have a coach that has played the game of football at a high level in which Dan Campbell has, and you have a coaching staff full of former players, you just get it. You have to trust the process. And that's exactly what they've been doing. Number two is accountability, player-led accountability. He holds his players accountable, but then those leaders on the team, Hutchinson, Goff, St. Brown, they hold the other players on the team accountable. And when your players are leading from the front of the pack, every single team I've ever been on that happens, you become great because there's a sense of awareness like, hey, we're not doing it for the coaches. We're not doing it for the staff. We're doing it for people in the building. And another thing about the accountability factor, he's kept his coaches accountable. He's kept the front office accountable. He's kept the owners accountable for everything they have done. And so that to me has brought out the best of them. And the third thing, it's simple football 101. If you're a CEO type coach, hire some freaking good coordinators. Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn. I was there with Ben Johnson in 2020.
Well, his staff,
COVID
his staff is littered. His staff is littered with former NFL players, like Mark Burnell. Like the entire staff is basically former players. So I love that.
Yes, and I was there in 2020 for my 1 year in Detroit with Matthew Stafford. Ben Johnson was the tight ends coach. Okay, Ben Johnson, I could tell. Everyone in the building could tell. He'd never called plays before. There was something special about. He had the it factor. It's hard to explain, but it just felt like he really knew what was going on. When Dan Campbell got hired in 2021, he decided there was a ton of offensive coordinator openings that year, or people that vying for offensive coordinators that had a much bigger resume than Ben Johnson, that had higher metrics on being an OC. He kept one of the few leftovers from 2020 when they fired everyone. He kept them, man. Give Dan Campbell his flowers. And then on Aaron Glenn on the other side, him in New Orleans, like it's just a match made in heaven. There's a chance that he could lose both of those guys. And so he's going to have to go through that process again. But it all begins and it ends with Dan Campbell for me.
Absolutely. And by the way, Tim Hasselbeck was a teammate of Dan's when they were on the Giants for a while. And he said, man, the guy that was my teammate and the guy that is the coach now, that's an evolution. That's an evolution because that guy was not
He was
you didn't
wild.
see him as a player and thinking, oh, absolutely going to be a CEO, head coach, motivator guy. Like that was not it. That was not
wild.
it. Dan Campbell is living proof that people can change and move on to be the next thing, right? You know that, and you know there's a story you don't want to tell me about Dan Campbell.
Oh, my God, dude. There's multiple. He's wild and crazy. But, yeah, people can change.
What's the wild and craziest Dan Campbell story you feel like you can share?
I just remember in 2017. Okay, so when I can share. When he was a tight end
2009.
coach. 2009. Well, the 2017 Dan Campbell, when he was a coach, he was about the only guy I've ever seen stand up to Sean Payton. And like Sean is like OG confident style, like no, and there were certain ways. So when guys saw them in the locker room, they were like, because like you don't stand up to the head coach and like talk. But Sean let them sort of do it, and those back and forth. We're not going to get into the words that were said because we'd be bleeping everything out. I'm not going to do that right now. We're cool. So there was a multiple interactions that year in 2017 between Sean and Dan.
Yeah, it's the evolution of Dan Campbell from Man Campbell to Dan Campbell head coach has been quite fascinating. I do want to say, you have to give a lot of respect to the Bucs because I was one of those guys that said they're the worst team in football this year. They got no chance. They're terrible. They're devoid of talent. They're bereft of talent. Todd Bowles did an amazing job. Baker Mayfield may have found a home. He's an
he
impending
has
free agent.
found a home.
Yeah,
He
but
can
he's
get
an
paid.
impending free. He's a free agent though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's good for Baker to stay in Tampa because it just seems like it's a good fit. But they have a ton of free agents, including Mike Evans, who might be getting a call from somebody with the name Veach, Brett. Veach, Brett, the general manager of Kansas City, might be having some interesting conversations with Mike Evans going forward. Hey, you want to play with Patrick Mahomes in his peak for the last couple of years of your career?
Yes, please.
Is that something I might be interested in? So I give Tampa all the credit in the world because look, and they were 4-7, and they turned it around, and they won this thing, and even when they won the division, they had to beat the Panthers, arguably the worst team in football, or not even arguably, 9-0 to win the division.
Yeah, they barely beat them.
Then they won a playoff game, and they were in this game all the way to the end. So I real tip of the cap for me to the job Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield did in Tampa, because I will be honest, I didn't see anything remotely close to this out of the Bucs this season.
No, and the fact is they fought, man. They were down 14, and that drive to score the touchdown with like 4 or 5 minutes left and scored a touchdown, that throw to Mike Evans was wild. Insane. Got it down to 7. They got the ball back, and I'm like, with 1:20 left or whatever it was, I was like, are they really about to go on this 90-yard drive? And then the second play was an interception. But you got to, like, I'm as a quarterback, as a fellow quarterback, like, I'm proud for Baker because rarely do first rounders get four chances.
Man,
and this was his 4th chance. And the number 4 is also $4 million, how much he's making this year, which is a complete bargain. He might add a 0 to the end of that come March. And rightfully so. He played the best year of his career. And it all comes down to a couple things for Baker for me. It is the confidence and belief that he's had in himself since his early days in Texas high school football. He found that again. And he found that again with Sean McVay for those 5 games. Okay? Yeah. And he carried it over with Dave Canales, who does not get enough credit, in my opinion, for what he did with Geno Smith last year, what he's done with Baker Mayfield.
Tampa, for those that don't know.
Yeah, sorry, the OC. And what he's done with Baker this year has been incredible. He got him back under center. He got him back in rhythm. He got him back to throwing the ball down the field. Trey, did you know that he was top 5 in the NFL in explosive pass plays with over 60 20-plus yard completions down the field? Over 60. Now, a lot of those were Mike Evans, and he's really, really good. Good. But, like, he doesn't deserve enough credit, Dave Canales, and I think that's the biggest thing with Baker is he got a swagger back, man. Yeah,
he's being Baker Mayfield again. Like, he's the only. I mean, you have to have a chip on your shoulder if you're the only walk-on to ever win a Heisman. You know what I mean? Like you have to.
You're just full of stats tonight. I love it.
You know,
I love.
Well,
stats.
he said something once. He's like, you know, you fight your entire life because you don't believe in it. Then you're a first-round pick, and you realize I need to find something else to fight for and get me motivated again. And obviously, Jared Goff the same way with the way the Rams moved on from him. So before we look at the previews of the championship games, I do want to get. I know there's one team you also want to talk about. There's another team I want to talk about. I'll go first. I want to talk about the Packers. I think as good as the Lions look, and they're set up to have success in that division for a while, look out for Green Bay. Jordan Love played. He had one bad throw. It was that interception that ended the game. He played tremendous in the postseason. The Packers had 6 rookies catch a touchdown pass this season in the NFL. That is the most ever in NFL history. And they have the youngest roster in the NFL. Yeah. Brian Gutekunst, who obviously was not Aaron Rodgers' choice to be the GM in Green Bay, apparently knows what the hell he's doing. Okay, so it was an experimental year, and from week 12 through the NFC Championship game, you can make an argument that no quarterback in the NFL was better than Jordan Love. Go look at the numbers; they have been absolutely remarkable. So it's bittersweet because you always think if we don't get it now, we may never get it. But I think the future is really bright in Green Bay, and I think they may be the first team, Chase. First team that I can think of in forever to get it right on 3 different quarterbacks. Brett Favre to frickin' Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. Now, it's
3
early,
in a row.
But, like you can go from, Joe Montana to Steve Young and Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck, but every once in a while, you get a you get a guy in there for the third that isn't really good. So for me, seeing them, they might be the first team I can think of to go and get it right and get a third franchise quarterback in a row. That is as rare can be. So I know I just want to send some love the Green Bay Packers way.
Yeah.
Not wordplay, but I think they're in good shape, and Aaron Jones is a killer. I think they're in good shape going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Jordan Love, I mean, down the stretch, just played incredible. The team I want to give love to is the Houston Texans, man. Whoever thought that the Houston Texans would be where they are? It was 10-10 at halftime with Baltimore Ravens, which arguably is the best team in the NFL. And they fought their asses off week in and week out. Look, this was a franchise, Trey, that had 10 wins in the prior 3 years. To this year, they had 11. Like, are you kidding me? Division champs. It starts and ends with two people. Okay, the first one is D'Amico Ryans. What D'Amico's done, another former player. I wonder about these former players. I wonder if I can get a job. Because all these former players seem to know what the hell they are doing when it comes to coaching. But no, D'Amico Ryans,
be careful.
That defense
you might not want
around.
what you get there.
Yeah,
Be
true.
careful. That's the coaching life is. You got to be committed, man.
My wife would not be happy. So D'Amico Ryans, what he's done with that defense, what he's done with the culture of that organization, he just looks fun to play for. He just looks like he's like one of those guys that is just such a good motivator, that loves on his guys, but is also like a true player's coach. What's a player's coach? Player's coach just understands being a player. You can be a player's coach when you've played the game. Okay, and the next one to me, I mean, it's easy, right? C.J. Stroud. So you got D'Amico Ryans, you got C.J. Stroud, two guys that have completely changed the face of this franchise for the next decade. C.J. Stroud, I don't care what anyone says. No one in their right mind knew what they were getting in Houston when he was drafted number 2 overall. No one thought he would be this way, or he would have been the number 1 pick. He'd have been in Carolina, all this stuff. His film was good to great. It wasn't like amazingly great, oh my gosh, in college at Ohio State, because first of all, he had so much time to throw. But then when you look at what he's done this year and how fast he's picked up the game, how quickly he's making decisions, the release on his throws is probably one of the faster release points I have seen. The dude has a cannon, can throw it all over parts of the field. And by the way, dude, he went into the year with Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and Robert Woods as his 3 top receivers. No one in his right mind thought they. And then Tank Dell obviously got hurt. I hope he comes back because he's a baller. But Nico Collins, career year, he makes everyone. CJ Stroud makes everyone around him better. Just want to throw some love his way because, for me, I break him down every single week because I watch every single play of every single week of CJ Stroud because I'm just like amazed at the things that he's doing. And when you got other quarterbacks that know the game, and I've heard multiple Hall of Fame quarterbacks talk about him and how he's played. Like when you got people like that talking about you, you know you're doing something right.
Look, I think we can sum up this portion of the show this way. Nobody knows anything because no one expected the Packers to do this with Jordan Love. No one expected the Bucs to do what they did, and no one certainly expected the Texans to do what they did. So we can sum it up this way. Nobody knows anything. There are no guarantees in football except that Patrick Mahomes will play in the AFC Championship game. That's the only thing we know. That's the only thing we know. Everything else is up for grabs. All right, so let's break down those 2 title games. You want to do AFC or NFC first? What do you want to start?
Let's go AFC because we were just on Chiefs. I'm fresh on that.
All right, let's go AFC. I believe the Chiefs can win, but it's going to be a much different game. I mean, you talked about the linebackers, and all the Bllls linebackers were basically injured, and they were exploited in the middle of the field. That ain't going to be the situation with those guys in
the best 2 in football.
Okay? Yeah, they have the number 1 scoring defense. They're the number 1 scoring defense, and the stat is is it yards? Technically, it's yards per game. But they're the number 1 scoring defense for a reason.
Points.
They can attack you at multiple levels. I think Mahomes is going to have the best game of any game he's played this year for the Chiefs to compete in this game, because that defense in Baltimore is legitimate. Look, the offense is still, it was 10-10 at the half. I think the Ravens had 22 passing yards or 23 passing yards as a team in that game because of some big sacks. Lamar had, I think, 50 yards passing in the first half. That offense can still be a little ragged. And I think it's going to be an uglier game than people think. I don't think it's going to be a game up and down the field. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring affair.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the first person to 20 wins the game. I truly do. And for me, usually I'm an offensive guy. I don't like to start on defense because I hate defensive guys. I hate them. But it is, I mean, dude, you're looking, like I went back and looked at all the stats on NFL Network. I had a bunch of research to look at them. And I hate to say it, but this 2023 Ravens defense, I mean, dude, they're
really
giving up
good.
16 points a game. You put them in the same category as the 2000 Ravens, not just defensively, but offensively as well. Everything that they're doing right now, I mean, that is the type of level of defense that they are playing. It's just, how do you know that a defense is good when you're watching it on film? Everything is freaking covered. They don't pressure. They have like the 5th lowest blitz percentage in the NFL. They play a bunch of too high coverages. They blitz some on third down. But when you're getting pressure, they're the 3rd highest pressure percentage rate in the NFL on the defensive line, rushing 4 or less. They don't need to bring 5 or 6 guys, Trey, to get pressure on you. So when they're getting pressure by 4, they're still in coverage, and they play this too high look on 1st and 2nd down, and they match the slot defenders. And these linebackers, Patrick Queen, Roquan Smith, are some of the stickiest linebackers I have ever seen on an NFL field in tandem together. And so I think the biggest thing from that standpoint defensively is that it is going to be low scoring, but Patrick Mahomes and company, Isiah Pacheco, like, you're going to have to be able to run the football and run the football well. And I'm telling you, you're not going to get a bunch of these chunk plays on this run. You're not going to average.
They had a ton of chunk plays against Buffalo.
Yes, and you're not going to run for 6.1 yards a carry, which the Chiefs did tonight against Buffalo. You're going to probably average 3 yards a carry, 3.1 yards a carry. You cannot get away from that. And you cannot be in 3rd and long situations. If you are in 3rd and long situations, good luck. I would almost just punt it on 3rd down. They are that good on 3rd down. And when you go to the other side of the football, okay, when you go to the other side of the football, the biggest thing for me and the Chiefs defense, which has sort of been their kryptonite, okay, Buffalo ran for 182 yards against them. Buffalo is a good running defense or running offense. Since the time Joe Brady took over.
The running offense.
The Ravens are
they've always been that way.
Number 1 rushing offense. Yeah. And I can just imagine a scenario. I'm not saying this could happen. A scenario where, you know what, Harbaugh just says, you know what? Let's just run the ball 45 times and keep away from Patrick Mahomes, which, credit, Buffalo Bills did. Like, they had 68 plays. The Chiefs barely had 42 plays tonight. Sort of followed that. The Chiefs still scored 27, should have been 34, other than the Mecole Hardman interception or fumble. So I think the biggest thing is you got to keep away from Mahomes. And you have to, look, it's easy. Oh, Chase, no kidding. This is what you're going to say. You have to score in a game like this. You have to score touchdowns in the red zone. That's going to be the biggest key. You might go on a little march, but imagine going on a march, and I've been on these marches before as a starting quarterback in college and in the NFL. You go on a 10-play, 80-yard march, and you crap out at the 5-yard line, well, you're kicking a field goal. And it's just like defeating when you get 3 points and not 7. So that's the biggest thing for me is you gotta collect a lot of freaking drives that churn the clock, and you gotta score touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, and by the way, the other kicker in the AFC Champions game is Justin Tucker. He ain't missing a 44-yarder to send the game to overtime. That's just not happening. Okay.
Facts.
By the way, the early line on that game is the Ravens are 3.5-point favorites. The NFC title game, which will be the late game, they switch every year. Although I'm sure for TV ratings, they'd love to have the Chiefs and the Ravens be the late game.
I know.
It's the Niners
when that was,
-7.
I didn't know they switched every year. I was like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
I was like,
they switch it up every year.
What's
That's
the
a big
spread?
7. The Niners are 7-point favorites. I'm kind of surprised by that.
You know why though?
Why?
65 and sunny on game day, and Brock Purdy's really good in the freaking normal weather. He's awful in the rain. That's why.
He went to Iowa State. How does he not play in bad? How does he not know how to play in bad weather?
Small hands, bro.
Right?
Small hands.
Oh.
Yeah, look at the Browns game.
Well, see,
look
it
at
is
this
a
game.
thing.
Come on,
Yeah.
it is 100% a thing.
Okay, so Listen, San Francisco should be favored, but Brock Purdy in that game on Saturday, it was the classic example of, wow, he didn't play well at all until he absolutely had to. And then that final drive, he played great. I don't know if he can get away with that against Detroit, because I think Detroit is going to find ways to score some points on San Francisco. I mean, like, you saw the Packers really gash them on the ground. Well, guess what the Lions can do with Gibbs and Montgomery? They can run it. And if the Niners don't tighten up that run defense,
well, Aaron Jones and the Packers,
it would not surprise me to see the Lions walk out of there with a win.
I think this game comes down to a couple things for me. Number one, do I have concerns over Brock Purdy in the rain? Absolutely. I think it was 100%. His performance was 100% rain and 100% rust. That's 200%. 50% rust, 50% rain. And so when you have those things working, like he'd been off Trey for 21 days. Of course you're going to be rusty. It's going to happen. He's got another game in him. He's going to start playing better, I think. And honestly, like the supporting cast around Purdy has been insane all year long. Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, CMC, but Deebo Samuel,
well, that's the
possibly
thing. That's a huge
being
wild
out
card.
Is a huge wild card in this game, and the numbers back it up. Okay, I don't have them on me, but Brock Purdy in that offense is a completely different animal when Deebo Samuel is on the field. So that's going to be a huge factor, and it should be a huge storyline all week long with Deebo's shoulder. Is it a hairline fracture? Is it not? He missed 3 or 4 games with it early on this season. And I think the biggest thing, other than the Brock Purdy situation, is he going to play? How's he going to play? Is he going to play well? He's going to play. Jared Goff in his career, just on the road, and this Detroit Lions offense and defense and team traveling on the road, Trey, they just haven't been that good. That's the biggest thing why I think this.
Go look at the game they played in Baltimore. Remember that? They got their butts handed to them in Baltimore.
The biggest thing I think for Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell moving forward, what they need to do is they have to pound the football early and often. They got to get Jared Goff in a nice rhythm. And look, you saw what Aaron Jones and the Green Bay Packers did to the 49ers defense on the first drive of the game on multiple occasions. They ran for a ton of yards against them. So that is probably what they're going to see on tape. But I just come back to San Fran playing at home. In 4 out of 5 years, they've reached the NFC Championship game. Like flowers to freaking Shanahan and Lynch, and they've done it with other quarterback. It's a crazy thing. Like I wouldn't be surprised, in my opinion, if San Fran walks away with this game.
Walks away with it. Okay, that's interesting because if they're going to do that, they have to build the lead early because. Deebo, by the way, Courtney has told people in the organization that he's okay, but we'll see how you say that now, and we'll see how it plays out, and whether he takes one big hit in the game and suddenly he's not okay anymore. But no, it's going to be interesting. My only concern for San Francisco is can Detroit run the ball? Detroit can run the ball. Then they'll stay in this game. Because remember, that was only the second time in Kyle Shanahan's career they came from behind in the fourth quarter when they were down by 3 or more points. They've been 1-32 when they entered the fourth quarter down by 3. They were 0-38 when they were down by 8. They weren't down by 8. They were 0-30 when they were down by 5. So I mean, like San Francisco is not a team that is built to come back. So the fact that they did that was somewhat remarkable against the Packers. And if the Lions can get that running game going, they may be able to put San Francisco behind the 8 ball.
Well, your tweet the other night was awesome about them. You said they're front runners, not come from behind runners, and that's so true. I mean, it's the facts.
They play
the
bully
matter
ball.
is,
they play bully ball. Like, that's what they want to
do. You got to get out to a lead in front, and if they do, then I mean, it does feel though, Trey. It does feel like this Detroit team, sort of a team of destiny, man. And just what they've put on and what they're doing, it's going to be their toughest test all year long. I don't know. Kind of
like the Broncos in Super Bowl 50 with Peyton Manning playing dead in the Western at quarterback, and somehow they took on the number 1 scoring offense in Carolina Panthers and held them to 10 points, 24-10. Little magic for Detroit. So anyway, that'll be it. So listen, this was the best weekend, and we'll end the show on here because I know people get jazzed for the Super Bowl. Championship Sunday is 100 times better. It's 100 times better. It's the single greatest day because you have 4 teams, 2 games, and 1 dream. Nothing beats championship. Da-da-da. Boom. On that note, get out of here. We'll talk to you next week.